points. You know, we moved up to 6th in the table. Not bad for a crap team. And Rasmus is scoring goals and Mainu's making me smile. And yeah, it's great. I'm actually all right. I'm content. Do you know what I mean? I'm content. But we're actually going to start with a bit of Man United. We're going to start off nice and easy tonight with a little bit of Manchester United. Rasmus Højlund now scoring his goals. Garnacho is starting to look the part. Rhino, like, what did you make of United yesterday, the performance, and the last week or so, really? I'm not saying corners have been turned, but United are starting to look, more potent, scoring more goals, and you can see that reflected in moving up the table.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I feel like there's definitely a lot more positives to take, Supporting United for the last few months hasn't been easy, let alone years. So I'm still skeptical because, like, I always call United a roll over the dice. You don't know what United's going to turn up, but I can at least admit that throughout the last 3 games, there's been a few consistencies. So, yeah, man, just got to just see what the next game holds. Obviously, when it comes to us losing out on leads and stuff like that, it looks like we've kind of patched it up. When we're going 2-0 up, it's like it's always inevitable that we're going to concede. So I did clearly notice in the last game against West Ham that we set up more, like we was more resolute in the way we set up. It was more cohesive, and there was still a few losses of concentration here and there. If Maguire, that goal that went, when Maguire missed the ball, and then they had that attack, if that goal went in, that could have changed the game. But luckily it didn't. So, there's a lot of positives. The spine is back. We're starting to see a bit more consistent style of play to a degree. We're starting to see something, but I'm still not fully confident. But there's definitely a lot more positives to take. So we just got to see game by game and see how it develops. But in terms of the youngsters, yeah, they're doing their thing as well. They're basically holding us up for now. So, yeah, we just got to go with it and see, man.
It was kind of a mad one yesterday because we probably played better against Wolves, but conceded 3 goals.
Yeah.
And yesterday there was a few hairy moments, but yet we walk away with a 3-0 victory. So if you just look at the scores, we looked better yesterday. But no, I do agree. I'm a bit like that. I'm just enjoying I'm kind of sort of taking it week by week. I'm not getting carried away. I'm enjoying what Rasmus is doing. I'm enjoying what Mainu's doing. Yeah. I was enjoying, obviously, Lissandro coming back. It looks like thankfully, they're saying it's not an ACL. It's a strain on a ligament, and it'll be 6 to 8 weeks. It'll be back after the next international break, which is obviously the best we probably could have hoped for after again, it's innocuous, really. But if we'd have lost him, that would have been quite a painful dent. But the youngsters are really...
Yeah.
As ever at Man United, the young players turning up, the young players delivering, and I think some of the older guys can take note from that. In terms of I'll to panel this as rivals. In terms of Man United winning some points, they're only a handful away from the top 5 now. There's still a lot of speculation as to whether or not top 5 will be enough for a Champions League spot. Could you see United putting on a late push for a Champions League position, or do you think it's too much, too little, too late?
You're in the perfect situation, Terry, because no one is putting pressure on you guys to do anything. But at the same time, you guys are kind of being forgotten in a good way, because it's like in a situation where you can creep up on people and maybe potentially take that spot. But even if you don't, you're not expected to. What you should take away from these past couple performances is that you have a little bit of bright spark in your team with Garnacho, Kobe Mainoo, and of course your young striker that you guys signed in the summer, Rasmus Højlund. They could definitely pick up more form later half of the season, and then from there you can push on going forward for the future. And as we were talking about just a couple of weeks ago, Terry, it seemed everything was doom and gloom at Manchester United. You were talking about how you guys were as bad as Chelsea, and now a couple wins on the bounce, and it looks like you have a brighter future than Chelsea.
In fairness, I did say to Don even months ago, we're not as bad as Chelsea. I've said that all season. I've been pretty consistent.
But Terry, we
literally just caught up with you guys, and then we
you know what it is? For me, it's different. Guys. For me, it's different. I've always personally thought, well, we've been worse than Chelsea in terms of how we play, like what we're seeing in the pitch.
That's true. Nah. I'm talking about situations where you guys find yourself this season. People always kept saying, no matter what, Chelsea have been playing better than you. They're going to find themselves in a better situation come the end of the season. And now it looks like you guys are going to find yourself in a better situation.
Look. The thing is, my auntie always told me that it's my smile that gets me in trouble. When I'm saying things with a smile, people don't believe me. They think I'm trolling. I've been saying this. Ten Hag He's earned the right to get to the end of the season. What he did last season with that Man U squad, I didn't think was possible. Won a trophy and finished third place. So he's earned the right to at least let him get a body of work to the end of the season. And then we decide, is he the guy or is he not the guy? So this run of games, he's got some players fit again. You guys have got a stronger looking midfield with Mayno. I didn't see what everyone was hyping up about in the summer, but I'm seeing it. He's really doing this thing. So can they get top 4? I think top 4 might be a bit out of their reach, but top 5 is not impossible. Top 5 is not impossible.
I want to ask you a question, George, and I get why you've done it. You've been very, very skeptical, is probably the nice way of putting it, of the talent ID of Erik ten Hag. What are your thoughts on his purchase now of Rasmus Højlund?
Hasn't changed, to be honest. Højlund's still got a lot to prove. He's had some decent performances. Probably the past month, I'd say, from what I've seen of him, he's looked better. He's looked a bit settled. I'd say your team's finding him more, making him more of a focal point of your attack. Because at the start of the season, I feel like Rashford, Garnacho, and some of the other players were just airing him more than anything. Just literally, he was through on goal quite a few times, and they would just be a bit more selfish. But my thoughts won't really change on someone's talent idea until I actually see him push him as a player, prove that he's a top player, because what Højlund's doing this season is pretty much what he was doing last season in the Serie A. Like he scored a few goals here and there. What did he get? Like 10 goals last season? Like
9 goals in all comps last season. He's on 10 now, like just over halfway through.
Yeah. And what is it? 4 Premier League goals.
So it's not the same then, George, is it? It's already better, no?
It's pretty. Again, I said it's pretty much.
We're halfway through the season.
Also, and wait, just to throw a fact out there. Also, top goal scorer currently in the Champions League.
It's facts. It's facts.
The Champions League. Terry. The only reason why the Champions League one is like I generally brush out of my mind is because for one, you guys are knocked out of the Champions League. So, and that doesn't discount his goals. You're right. He still scored goals in those games.
Yes.
But a lot of those games he scored in were losses. And
but he done his job though. He done his job.
Again, he done his job, but clearly not enough.
Yeah, but what about his goal against Newport? What about that?
I'm not gonna I ain't gonna take nothing away from him though, because I have been impressed with how he's played recently. He's got a bit better, but I ain't gonna take nothing I've said back on Ten Hag, because there's a lot of other signings that still aren't looking good.
Oh no, I know.
Look better.
Okay, so, I'm just asking about the players.
One at a time. We're talking about Erasmus right now.
Nina, your point of view, Man United, some of the progression in the last few weeks. Do you see this as a bit of a flash in the pan, a little bit of a purple patch, or do you think maybe with the new ownership, some of the new standards, some of the discipline that's gone on recently, maybe the penny's finally starting to drop with some individuals?
I think that you guys go through stages like this throughout the season. I generally do. I feel like you go through stages where you pick up a few wins, where it's like 2-3 wins on the bounce. You start to look better, and then things change again, and you do a drop a game, or you lose. So I do think that something has changed mentality-wise. There may be a change in the back, and the players may be a bit more up for it. But again, I still feel like we need a longer period of time. See, let's see how you get on the next 2 or 3 games, for example.
Yep.
See if you're picking up points in those, because I feel like in November we had a period of games where Man United was like unbeaten for 5 games. You had the best form in the league, and people obviously they weren't saying you're going to do anything with that, but that's what you would. You had 5-game period where you look really good, and then 5 games after that you look really poor. So like it's good momentum for you guys to build up. Recently been good, but we need to see it more consistently for anyone. For me personally,
but George, sorry to cut you off as well. Do you know what's a bit different though? And don't get it twisted. I'm not. Listen, from November I checked out with Ten Hag in it, but I'm considering building my faith back in him. But what it is, I'm starting to see a little bit more better performances. So I think that's what it is. I think in that context, does it look like there's a bit of a turnaround? I think that's what Terry means, and I think maybe. But like you said, even though there's better performances, I'm still a bit. I've got PTSD, man. This club, listen, it's stress. This club stresses me.
You're skeptical. You're skeptical, and rightly so, because he showed you more bad than good. It's gonna take a long. It's gonna take a long time for you to start to get confident in your team again, which is where me and Nina are. You know what I
mean? Nina, how do you see things with Man United right now? Is it about taking it game by game, or do you think United fans have got cause to be more optimistic?
I agree with the point that your performances have been better. And I actually think that you are where you are now in the league because you still, even with bad performances, still grinded out results last year towards the end. Like there were still games where you somehow managed to get through. And that's where we're separated. You know, you said Chelsea, Man United, but Chelsea has walked away in many games where we've had good performances, but the results just haven't been there. You know, it's no coincidence that arguably our 2 best games this season have both been draws. That tells you everything you need to know. Man United have been the exact opposite almost. They've almost just walked away with that point at the end of the day. Kobe Mainu, another player that sort of made that difference for you, had that game you were, was it 3-1 up to Wolves before they equalised? It was 3-3. You had that player to make the difference to walk away with 3 points. But again, you're talking about a very negative game if that hadn't gone that way. Newport, another example where you were almost sort of pinned and then came out again, grinded out a result. So I feel like that's changed. But now that you've got good performances, there's been certain players that have stepped up as well, individual moments of brilliance, but more players playing good consistently as opposed to some players having good moments and then obviously nobody else turning up. I think now you're having a lot more players that are basically turning up. But again, I agree on the point that we've got to see some consistency with you. I feel like the same point stands as Chelsea that, you know, we go through moments where we see a 2-3 winning streak and then we're hit straight back to reality. And yeah, but I mean, judging by the game where when we came to Old Trafford, Ten Hag's job was pretty much on the line that game. And, you know, we made you guys look so good in that game. And then you had a couple losses. Champions League obviously didn't go your way, knocked out. And I almost think that's every more reason to focus on the league right now. Obviously still in the FA Cup as well. But, you know, you've got all the time to focus on that and, you know, secure potentially top 6 spot. Yeah.
I completely agree. And I think that I'm happy with the results recently. I really was intrigued in the panel's thoughts on this. I think United fans should be happy with winning always. But I've had a lot of people that I've checked out with Ten Hag. I don't know if he's the guy really to take us forward with Ineos when they're fully ratified and everything else. A lot of people, we won these games. You know, the turnaround has begun. And I think that we've got to just keep our powder a little drier, be more open-minded. Because we haven't turned the corner yet. As I say, West Ham, I'm really happy we won. The attackers were really good. There's some really good individual performances, but we conceded too many opportunities. Against Wolves, up until the 85th minute, it was our best performance for me of the season. We barely conceded the chance. We defended well, we controlled the game. But then within the space of 7 minutes, we were suddenly at 3-3. And you're thinking to yourself, how the hell has this happened again? And we did that in about 3 of our Champions League games where we were cruising and playing well. And we ended up losing games. And that, for me, can't be ignored because being a team that finishes in the top 6, top 5, top 4 is not good enough when you invest the amount of money that we do, when you pay the wages we do. We have to be looking towards being a team that can win Premier Leagues. And we've seen what Arsenal did this weekend, which we'll get onto later, where they nullified one of the best teams in the world in Liverpool to almost nothing. They did it to Man City earlier on in the season. And no disrespect to Ten Hag, and I know he hasn't been at the club as long as Arteta, but are we really going to do that at home to Liverpool or City, that nullify them to that level? That's when, for me, I'll feel like United are on their way to being back when we can actually have those performances. So I think we should be happy with some individuals and the results, but we've got to keep putting that pressure on to improve for me. I agree completely.
I think it's difficult to compare Arteta's situation to Ten Hag's situation. It's his second season. And when it comes to your team, Terry, not every single year is going to be just that upward trajectory. There's going to be times where maybe you take a step back because of injuries or other scenarios. You're missing one of your best players from last season for a large portion of the season, and nobody's really speaking about it also.
Yeah, I understand that. Look, I think for me, the difference was when Arteta came in, a lot of the backroom staff and a lot of the hierarchy changed all at the same time. Ten Hag has come in and done 18 months with the people that we wanted out of this football club. And I feel that some of their rotten, toxic nastiness is on him. Some of that stink is on him. And in all, I'm not just trying to be harsh to him. I think removing him will help. I think removing him will help in terms of pushing us further forward. But I do see the arguments for keeping him as well, and I do agree. He probably, even in my angry moments, I probably said go now. But in reality, when I'm calm, keeping him until the end of the season, considering Ineos are not even ratified yet as the new part owners, probably makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, do you know what it is, Terry? For me, yeah, it's just the fundamentals, man. Like a lot of people are saying, "Oh, look, he's got the style of play. He's starting to show consistencies. Even when we were bad and we lost, there was something there." But he just needs to start getting the fundamentals right, get the lineup right, pick the right players, the in-game management. We want to see what last season his in-game management was quite good. I think we were top 3 for most the most substitute scoring goals and stuff like that. So if you can get the lineups right, in-game management is good, and he can start dealing in the press conferences as well. I think his communication with players as well, and the way he deals with certain things is not perfect, which might not change because obviously his language barrier and stuff like that. But yeah, we just need to see the fundamentals consistently, and then I'll be happy. If we played like how we played against Wolves for the first half, at least we controlled the game, and then we won 3-0. Like if we did that against West Ham, I'll be a bit more confident. But the fact is, we had 40% possession in that first half, and then we still scored 2 goals. You know what I mean? It was a bit shaky. It wasn't convincing. Yeah, so
I hear you, Rhino.
Yeah.
This here from Tony says his goals were in games they lost. Said the Tottenham fan. I guess Harry Kane's goals were irrelevant too.
I mean, he scored most of our wins, but it makes sense.
This here says that Said's panel calling Erik ten Hag a liar over Sancho is a definition of low IQ. Basic analysis. He has factual, documented training issues at all his clubs. Look, I don't know what was said on Said's show, so I'm not going to sit here and say that people have got low IQ and basic analysis because I didn't watch it. Look, the situation was handled wrong. Do I think that Sancho has some problems at the club? Yeah, I don't think Ten Hag has lied that the player. I don't believe that Sancho was the hardest working, best in training, and the manager just picked on him. I think that's a nonsense.
And the same club, Terry, as well, that apparently said he's bad at training, took him back on loan. So you have to factor in all these things.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I don't think it's as clear cut as anyone makes it out to be. Equally, the manager should not have made it public. The manager shouldn't have done what he did. The club shouldn't have leaked information afterwards about him and continued to badmouth him. So there's been good on there's been bad on both sides, in my personal opinion. And I don't know kind of why that's come up now. We're not really talking about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm on the panel in it, so he's probably just.
Oh right,
yeah. I'm on the panel as well, I know he's not talking about me because normally I'm quite in the middle. I'm quite reserved and like my judgment's not over the top. I'm not emotional, but I feel like certain people just pick a certain side, and when you don't agree with them, they just say you got low IQ. So
yeah, and it works both ways because there are people that are like, oh, Ten Hag will never drop Anthony because he's like one of his favorites, or Garnacho. He's been dropped for Garnacho. So there's elements of truth on both sides, but people are too polarized nowadays. It's crazy. Rasmus is joint top with Morata. Need I say more? So because Morata's also scored a lot of goals, that means that Rasmus's goals are worth less. So what does that mean about everyone who scored less goals than them this year? So then no one's got. So Saka's Champions League goals are worth nothing because he has less than Morata. Think of the precedent you're setting here. Come on, remember, like cheap banter, you always end up hurting your own club. You've just basically said Saka's goals in the Champions League are dog shit. Why would you do that? Come on, bruv. Be better. Come on, kids. I ain't how you banter. You youngsters, man. I tell you. Hit the like button, people.